When talking about the skew, it's important to talk about a few things that can go wrong while you're using the skew. One of the major things is when you're going to have the heel of the tool or the toe of the tool catch on the wood and cause a nasty break in the wood. What that looks like is when the wood is spinning, if you catch on the heel of it, it's going to be a spiral spin away. That's what's going to draw you away from the area you're cutting without control. The other problem you're going to have is if that toe catches, and that's going to cause a violent, nasty gouge out of the work you're trying to create. So those are two of the problems that you're going to run into. One of the other troubles that you're very likely to find is that you come up off the tool rest. It's real important that the tool is in contact with the tool rest and also in contact with the bevel at the same time. If you focus too much on the bevel, though, what you'll find is sometimes you actually lift off the tool rest, which will slam you back down into the tool rest. It's definitely something you don't want to do. It's important to keep my thumb right in between the two, and that way I can put pressure on it. You see here I'm letting go with my hand, and that's going to make sure that I'm on both the tool rest and the bevel at the same time. Very important. Another thing about the skew is that it's a tool that should only be used in a single direction. It needs to only move forward. Once you start in a direction, you've got to keep going that way. You can't back up even a little bit. It's that backing up motion that's going to cause you some trouble, because as you're going along, it's going to change all the forces that you're experiencing. Everything is going to make it so difficult to stay on the bevel that it's very likely that it's going to catch in one of the two ways. So you'll find yourself just going along just fine, and the next thing you know, you back up because you think you missed something, and that's when you're going to run into trouble. So it's real important that you focus on using the tool in one direction. Here you can see that once you've successfully entered the cut, it's important the way that you exit the cut. If you pull back like this, it's very likely you're going to snag on that toe, or you're going to somehow lose your leverage and your contact. So I push forward at the end of each stroke. So as I'm cutting, that's the safe place to go to come out of the cut. You just move back up on the round, and the bevel will be engaged, and the cutting edge will stop being in contact. If you pull back on it, it's very likely that you're going to catch. Here you can see that the angle of the cutting edge is about 45 degrees to the round that I'm working on. That's a good safe place to keep the toe and the heel away from cutting or catching. If you have it more parallel to the work or more perpendicular, as you see here, both of those carry their own risks. The more perpendicular tends to be difficult to control. The more parallel, you're definitely risking more of a catch. You can start to get a feel for how the tool is going to cut and where it's going to cut by just sort of cutting on the round, just like you would with a pocket knife. Just get that bevel in contact and push it along and see what you're going to take a cut as. This is a real good way to start to get the feel for it with no intimidation of the spinning workpiece. And then, of course, if you want, you can just spin the workpiece with your hand and start to get a feel for what it's going to be doing. You can see that at this 45-degree angle, I'm in a real safe place. I also like to cut just below the center part of my blade, down on the lower portion of it. That really helps with my leveraging, because this area is closer to the fulcrum that the tool is on the tool rest rather than the toe, which sometimes you do need to cut with, but it tends to pull you in and catch. It's simply easier to control between there and the fulcrum than it is from the toe to the fulcrum. Here I'm going to start putting in the position to take a cut. I'm going to make sure that I'm solidly on the tool rest, and I'm going to rub the bevel of the tool against the workpiece and come down, dropping down on the round slightly, and you can see right at the last moment before it starts cutting, I roll just like that, ever so gently, and that's what's going to pick up the cut and give me the control as to when it's going to start cutting. You see that little bit rolling right there. Now, it's really vital that while I'm doing this, I stay as high on the round as possible. The lower you get on the round, any action of rolling or whatnot is going to take you right off the bevel and spin you out. So the higher on the round that you can achieve the cut that you're trying to achieve, the better off you're going to be. So once again, you can see I start taking the cut, moving forward with it, and that's about the location I like to cut in. And you can see as I'm cutting, everything's going just fine, but if I start going backwards, it's going to come off that bevel and catch. Here I'm going to show a couple of the different ways you can control the tool while you're moving across the workpiece with it. You can move the arm, you can swing your arm a little bit, or you can roll it. And generally what you're going to do is a combination of the two to control where it's cutting. You can see as I bring the tool down into the cut here, I'm cutting right around that middle point that I talked about. And so as I bring it into the cut, you can see it's cutting just fine down near the bottom there, but if it was cutting more near the top of the, for the toe, of the blade and I wanted to change it, I could always do it by rolling ever so gently forward, and that's going to help bring it back towards the bottom. Or I'm also able just to take that and swing the arm a little bit, and that's also going to have the same impact. This is all very safe as long as you stay on that bevel. That's really the one part that is non-negotiable in all of this. Now, here you'll see with the tool on what I'm talking about. I'm going to start cutting, and I'll be cutting down near the heel of the tool. And as I roll back, the tool starts cutting closer to the toe. And I can once again roll forward, which causes me to also rise up a little bit, and you can see I'm cutting actually with the heel itself at that point. I can also adjust it by starting my cut, just as I normally would, and swinging the arm just a little bit. And if I swing the arm, that's also going to change where it cuts. It's real important just to play with these controls and see what they do while you're working with them.